Thank you for joining us as we look at God's Word. We're in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and we're starting with verse 9. And pretty well the discussion is going to be about the resurrection. But first of all, the Apostle Paul is still pretty well defending his apostleship. And so he's got one more statement to make before we get into the resurrection. And I want you to remember that God's Word says in two different places. It says it in James 4:6, and I believe 1 Peter 5:6. God gives grace to the humble. He resists the proud, and he gives grace to the humble. Grace is not only God's mercy, God doing for us better than what we deserve, not giving us the judgment that we deserve, but it's also God doing something through us that we can't do on our own. I'm sure that you've seen commercials and heard people talk about being able to fix this and that, and they'll say, can do, oh, I can do. And then maybe New Yorkers, have you ever heard a New Yorker go, forget about it? How many times have you heard that? Forget about it. And so in that sense, God's grace is his can do for our forget about it. I mean, not only can we not save ourselves, we need his grace to save us. It's like if you're drowning, you don't get credit for being saved. The lifeguard gets the credit for it. He did it for you. But in the same way, you and I can't be effective as Christians without God's grace. Like Jesus said in John 15:5, without me, you can do nothing. Wow, nothing means nothing. So Jesus was pretty well saying, hey, without my grace, forget about it. But with my grace, can do. Well, having said that, why don't we do the passage? This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, starting with verse 9. I am the least of the apostles, and not fit to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. In other words, God gave me the mercy that I did not deserve. And then, by his grace, called me to be an apostle, which I could not do on my own. And then he goes on and says, his grace toward me did not prove vain, but I labored even more than all of them. Not I, but the grace of God with me. Paul was saying, by God's grace, I'm saved. Boy, I persecuted the church. I deserved to be punished in hell forever. By the grace of God, I was called to be an apostle. I'm the least of the apostles. And then, by the grace of God, I labored diligently. Did you catch that? I labored more than all of them, but not I, but the grace of God in me. And so, as far as salvation goes, and as far as being able to keep on serving God and not quitting, grace of God, that's his can do for our forget about it. Have a great day.